Hello, hello everybody. How are you doing? I am back. As you can see, we've been making progress on the sci-fi space station. Excuse the tea. It's gone all cold here. We had snow. Goodness, must be winter. Right, don't let me forget my tea. Right, what are we going to do today? Let's have a look. We've got the last two streams. I did storage stuff, filling the rooms with some interesting things, the crates specifically. Dividing the space up, how to use it for storage, and then the ability to adjust the quantity of crates and things in the room, which works quite well. Bit of variation, like the orientation. I did want to have a quick tweak of something which we didn't actually do, which was where you've got space, you're going from a larger to a smaller crate. We just do a bit of rotation because there's usually space, but also we could offset them a bit within that. So there's scope for introducing a bit more variety. Everything is very centered because it is centered actually. So I might do that. There isn't really. I mean, we could have a tiny bit adjustment just for like on stuff that's the same size, just for kind of realism, I guess. Just a slight variation, and ignore any. I mean, there's already kind of fairly good gaps between things anyway, so we can probably get away with that. Yeah, so I might do that first, and then I was thinking, there's all sorts of things we could do next. I was going to look at the door problem where we're only allowed one door per side, which there's sort of two stages of that. One is allowing a wall to receive more than one door from other rooms, and the other is for a room to have more than one door, because you only specify it on one of them, and then you just join them together. I would like to look at that because that would open up more intricate spaces, more interesting space station layouts, and then we can look at some maybe actual building some bigger structures, perhaps how that might work. And then I also want to look at clutter and stuff and greebling and things like that. Basically making these kind of sterile surfaces a bit more rough and ready. Not necessarily in their like visual appearance. That's kind of a material thing, perhaps, which is beyond the scope of what we're doing here at the moment. But more like little objects, bits and pieces, detritus, dropped spanner, that sort of thing. And maybe find some other things to stack, not just these crates. I can't remember exactly what there was in the asset pack that we looked through last time. We did have a look for some stuff like that, but this was an obvious starting point. So let's do the offsetting. I do actually want to do that because these are just too neat in that respect, even with the other variety we've got. I mean, that's rotation that's caused that little offset, which does work. You get the impression of an offset. God, I wish I knew how to improve the lumen sparkles. I'm sure someone could tell me. I'll have to ask a friend of mine. They would know. Okay, let's do that. So let's dive in. I'm going to open up my procedures. Like that. And let's turn off the ceilings because we're going to go back out here. Oh, we haven't also. I know each room does have some variation. I mean, we've only got storage rooms at the moment, so that's one thing to look at. There's lots of skinny stacks spaced out. Looks a bit weird. Maybe we need to enforce some of the larger crates at the bottom for these taller stacks. I mean, this is quite a tall room. I think I was testing that basically. Let's go back to there. It doesn't look so bad. I guess you might want to be able to squeeze in there and get to something. Who knows? What was I saying? Yeah, the rooms have got a single purpose, and that's just storage, and it's just more or less of that. We could look at creating other sorts of rooms. Maybe they want rooms that have some sort of subdivision, or like mezzanines, or things like that. Actually, mezzanines might be quite nice. With stairways up to them and stuff, and you get like multi-levels within one room. Something we could look at. And then the upper rooms could have allowed doors. Yeah, I don't know. Well, that's something we could look at. We'd probably want to coordinate with. Let's make it taller. Where was that? How did I get 9? 6, 7. Oops, 7. Yeah, I'll do. Yeah, so if you've got like 2 panel sections and you've got a mezzanine can go here, then you can have another door section. Although maybe you would need this sort of in and outness again. Something to think about when we get, if we look at that. That's another thing we could do. Right, so this stacking centering issue. So as we're going from one size to the next, we'll have, I guess it's at the point where you're placing a crate, you need to look at how big it is and then how big the previous crate was. We could pass for any given, as we iterate through the stack, for any given point we can pass on the current frame, so that the next the frame for the crate, and then the next one can look at that and compare with its one. And it's pretty much about 2 rectangles, how much you can position one inside the other. So it's like how much slack you have, and then you can randomize how much it moves within that. And then you don't have to go right to the edge, you can have some boundary. And then if they're the same size, that could end up being a very small shift just for cosmetic appearance. And then for the bigger difference, it can move more. And if it goes from the square to the rectangular crate, like here, obviously that it can move in one axis more than the other. So we treat each separately and do a bit of logic to say, if it's basically the same, it can do a little bit, and if it's more, then it'll do a lot more. So yeah, so the minimum amount and the maximum amount. So we can look at that. Let's do that. Right. We need to dig in and find our room filler. Fill space stackable. What's this? Okay, so this is our top level for one corner of the room, but we actually just want to deal with the stack, which is this one, I think. Stack. Choose a crate. Reorient randomly. Orientation variety. Oh yeah, that's the 90 degrees. This is the slight twists, and then we flip one over occasionally, and we recurse here. So this should probably be. This should probably be a. Like this is the recursion section. Let's call it iteration, because we're basically iterating up the stack using recursion. It's fine. We'll just call it that. So here what we wanted to do is pass in our current frame. Do we? Or maybe it's just the current size. I think it's more about the size, because the frames actually get rotated and things, so we don't really want that. And the main frame doesn't change size, it's just resized each time to fit the crate. So it's the asset size here, this value, that's important. In fact, we don't even need the frame, we do have the sizes. If we pass in the size of the previous crate, we can add in, we'll just do it as we'll just use the X and Y of the 3, because it's just, everything just plugs in together better. Previous crate. at the top here, we're starting with a the largest crate as our sort of initial object size, so we can use that to also get the size. We want the first one. Oh, hang on. Oh yeah. Oh no, that's the wrong place. This is the grid. We want the stack. Ah, okay. Not that. Not there then. Oh well, the grid is a pure grid, so we dig into the here. So that's the stack. Previous crate. Each stack will start with the largest one, which will be the size of the frame. So let's go with that, which is the object frame here. Stack bounds, face bounds. Yeah, let's do that. We'll take this as our first previous. So the first crate will be able to have this sort of non-existent crate beneath it of the same size, and we can use that for the comparison, and then in here, each time we iterate, we'll pass in the size of the next chosen crate, which is chosen here at random. Key break. So that gives us, so here we've got previous and current, because we can see here previous comes in here, current is the chosen size here. Let's say chosen next size, previous, well, let's call it current crate size. And then we can apply, before we do all the rotations, so we move these along a bit. Oops, hello. We move these along a bit. We can do an offset in here. Yeah, because we've taken where we are in the stack, we've sized it, and we have we can offset that, which will be that one. Sorry, dink. So what where's it gone? There. So what we've got here, let's do it in units. So we'll be able to let's go just for testing. We can offset by an amount. Is that cumulative? Oh no, because it's not passed in. We're not. Oh, interesting. We'll probably want it to be cumulative so that this is also offset. But given that these are different size frames, maybe we could offset it before, because it is a centered one. Let's do that. Yeah, okay, we'll do that. So basically the stack can walk a little, and we'll use that for the stack as well. And what that will mean for this test is some taller stacks. Yeah, here is that. Yeah, it accumulates, which is fine. But now we need to do a calculation per iteration, and it'll be dependent exactly on what's going on. So we've got that. Let's move these over a bit because that can stay there. So this is the asset selection. Let's give that a note. And now we're going to do the offset bit. So we've got these two sizes here. So from these two X and Y sizes. We need to decide maximum amount that it can move in that X and Y, and that's our offset, or at least then randomly within that range. So this, I mean, it's a small calculation, but it could get a bit fiddly, so it'd be better to say have a procedure to do the calculation and then apply it twice, one for each axis. So we could do all that here, but the actual calculation can be separate. So let's do a kind of utility thing, probably. Let's make a utility for, let's call it there's some sums involved. We'll call it maths, and it's one size and another size. How much movement within that? So it's kind of like, but also randomly. I'm going to call it jitter. Calculate an offset for one size within another. A random offset was another, keeping within bounds. Difficult, naming's difficult, we'll just call it that. So what that's going to do is take in it's going to take in a float, two values, two sizes. So we're going to have two floats, and they're going to be size A. So there's going to be the outer size, inner size, and then we're going to have, well, there's a randomness involved, so we're going to have, we'll need a seed, so we can have a seed, let's just call it that, and do that on the top, and the outputs are going to be an offset that we've generated, and also we're going to have, it'll produce a new seed, so we can pass that on to the next thing that needs randomness. So we do it like that. We'll come back to that and fill that in a minute. Don't need that, don't need that. So we're going to use that in here, but we need to use it twice. So we're going to have two of these. I'll make a little bit of space. Let's move this down. We could wrap it up. Stack jitter. Yeah, let's make it a procedure. We can generalize it as well. So jitter is just in one axis. So if I do one called jitter, that just makes sense. Jitter xy, jitter in two axes. There we go, that makes a lot of sense. And in here we'll have two, 1, 2. And with this time we can have vector in and out, and seed in. We can chain those together, and that's our output, and that's a new vector out. We do the Z. I think we assume Z is irrelevant. We're just going to use the first one. Oh yeah, sorry, this is outer, inner, and outer X. So this is the X, this is the Y, outer, out, inner, and then the new out offset here. So that's the offset. Okay, so we've done a 2D version of our function that doesn't exist. The beauty of procedures and composition, I can use this without knowing or caring how it works or what's in it. The fact that there's nothing in it. And then I can fix that later. So, stack here. This makes this, we don't have as much clutter now if I just bring this in, because we can. The previous crate is the one underneath, so that's going to be the outer, because the next one's going to be either the same size or smaller and be inner. The current crate will be the inner, and our offset will be here. That's because there's no implementation yet. Seed, where are we gonna get seed from? We're kind of feeding it through everything. So let's go from here and then rejig these to here. Let's do that. So this is our just offset. Okay. Let's fix this a minute. All right, in here it's because this offset isn't wired to anything. Let me just put a I'm just going to put a value in there for now. So we've got something, and I'm going to have to, well, we're going to need some randomness, so we'll bung one of those in and wire that up. There we go. Still broken. Okay, interesting. Oh, there is no offset in Z. This is an offset we're generating, so we shouldn't generate a Z offset. Okay, that makes more sense. It would have worked. These would just be zeros. So this is now a value we can then fiddle with again. Yeah, so that's doing both axes. That's what we'd expect. Now we have to do the maths. So the two sizes, we're assuming they're centered. The difference between them is the slack, but it's on both sides. So half of that amount is the amount we can move sideways. So we need to do some sums. I'm going on my way to so low down. Let's do, so the difference between them is that outer will be the bigger one, inner will be the smaller. So that's the slack, that's total slack. And then if we want, so that's, if it was fully one side, that would be what would be left over. But to move it fully one side, you'd have to move half of that distance. So we can move plus or minus half of that. We divide that by 2. So that's our max movement. In theory, we can go by that amount. What I wanted to do is have a slight minimum, so that even where they're the same size and there is no slack, we get a slight movement. And I'm thinking like only like a couple of centimeters, so maybe 0 meters it will be 0.0. Let's go 5, so we can move a little bit. And this is the, oh, this is also, we also then, this is going to move one way. Sometimes we want to move the other way, so we know it's even spread. And that will mean that we want to be able to, we want this to be either plus or minus. Let's do that with a little probability. Probably the simplest. Again, we can chain the randomness in. But what we're going to do here is multiply by the value by something. Simplest way is just to select with equal probability a 1 or a -1 and multiply it. That means it will go 0 to 0.05. It's always going to move a little bit. We don't need to do that. Let's do it slightly differently. We've got a maximum movement which is positive by definition. This is just, this will always be larger than this, so this will always be positive. We can do this, so we're going from negative half slack to positive half slack. That makes more sense. But we still need to introduce the idea that it will maybe always move a little bit. Because if this is 0, they're the same value, we'll end up with 0 and 0, and this will be 0, but that means it will never move. So we could let us put in an overriding small amount of randomness on top and just add that in. We'll do that here. But that, I'll just chain that in. That is going to be, I just want a slight value either side of 0, because we're going to just add and remove, potentially add a little bit more one way or the other. It's probably the simplest way of doing it. And we can use a little spread operator just to generate our plus and minus. Confusingly they're backwards, but hey. Centre around 0, we want a slight, we're going to go with 5 centimeters. There we go. Okay, and that gives us a value, which we should, if we hook it up, varies everything. Oh, it's moved quite a lot. Ah, I know why. That's cool. So, where we started with a smaller crate first, it can already offset because there is a space on the floor for it. That, maybe we should exaggerate things a bit to see the effect. See, that's moved over slightly. And we can actually, in fact, if we change so the max movement here, how can we override that just to show the effect? I guess we can just multiply out the offset. So if we put in for testing purposes, we'll put in another multiply here. And then we can go turn that up from 1 to more to see the effect. We should, yeah, everything's moving around. Rather extreme, but it works. Yeah, we've got varying amounts of offsetting going on. So that's nice. And we should be able to see, that's just for testing. We should be able to see cases where something has been fully moved over. I mean, that's quite good. You can see there's a crate there. Oh, that's a small crate. Yeah, and that's fully moved over to the left. Plus maybe a little bit more. I don't know. Has it actually moved further? Maybe not. But yeah, that's nice. Because we've kind of kept it subtle, shall we say, within the bounds of there was already a cap, and we shouldn't really get any like collision or overlaps happening. We've already got a bit of tolerance, even with the rotations. I mean, the worst case would be 2 crates moved to their limit and then rotated together, which I guess could happen. We might see some collision. Oh, look, technically we have collision. Until I see anything worse, I'm going to leave it at that. That makes them look a bit more haphazardly stacked, which is nice. Yeah, we got them, that one's pushed back, which is nice. Those are offset there. This whole stack has got a big gap, so people, you could walk in here and go and poke around in amongst it all. I think that works quite well. So yeah, haphazard stacking, ignoring the problems of. I mean, space stations are static, and this one has artificial gravity. We're glossing over those technicalities. If this was on a spaceship, these would all need to be strapped down because of the acceleration, unless the anti-gravity system just handled all that. I mean, gravity is a form of acceleration, so if you can override the ship acceleration and keep it accelerating up in this space, everything will stick to the floor anyway. Right. Okay, nice. That's just a fairly subtle change, but I think it's this sort of attention to detail that I quite like. Just makes things a bit more interesting, a bit messier. I mean, it's a tricky one. Oh, there's a bit more of a collision. Okay, it's tricky because whilst this is randomness, and lots of randomness just makes things grey and oatmealy. It's selectively applied in very specific ways, and it's that sort of thing that shows the rough edges to everything, that is more human about everything. So there's the human element to all this. It's not all robots in space. We're going to be in there to mess it up, I'm sure. So that's fine. We're going to go with that. Right, I think it's time to look at some assets. So we'll look for either some other things to add to these stacks, and it can be crates, it could be something else, and also other objects that we can have scattered around. And we'll have a look for some cluttery type stuff. I would like to be able to have floor clutter that is, for example, predominantly occurs more at the edges, doesn't occur where the crates are, and then it's kind of clear down the walkways. So you would occasionally find, you know, in a gap you might find an object. Now there's some of this that's quite tricky to do, so we'll talk about the various things that we can do to achieve that. Also wall decoration, make some of these walls a bit more interesting. Don't know about that. And then ceiling's more interesting because in theory you're not walking on the ceiling. Ceilings are already let me put the ceiling back on. Diagnostics. So ceilings are already more lumpy because you're not walking on them. So there's scope for adding more stuff to the ceiling, more incidental, more clutter, more hanging things if we want some like cables or whatever. Quite where everything connects to, I don't know. Maybe it's the joins and the intersections we can use, or maybe it's on certain runs we can have cabling and stuff. That would be quite nice in the gaps, or just hanging, or just like tacked on with clips or something. Or maybe surface pipe work. There is some pipe work in there we might do something with. That would add some richness, and that might work on the walls as well. Not sure if we'd be able to go through corners, but we could try it. So yeah, we're going to have a look for some assets and go on an asset hunt. Let's do that. So I'll save everything here and go back to our original sci-fi pack. Does not, well, we should check because there's the thing we've missed. There's a test parts demo. Like that. So ignore the shader. I think we're using most of these pieces. The only bits we're not is this smaller door, which is, I think, would be worth doing, just to have a bit more variety. And for like smaller rooms, it doesn't make sense necessarily to have the big door. It would be nice to support the small door. As for the other bits, I think we're kind of done. I've probably missed some like specifics, but we can come back to that. So I think this pack is kind of used. Yeah, I am using all of those. I've got only one type of wall and window. We could be a bit clever about the windows, but again, that's an exercise for another time. I think that will do. It's quite possible that some of these pieces aren't appearing properly or very common, which is just the floor ceiling algorithm we've got. So that another thing, like if I properly dig in, we can find out why that is and fix that. Could be like the probabilities or just a sort of interesting interaction between different logic decisions. Let's go and look at this set here. Parts. So this had a lot more stuff in it, a lot more candidates for stacking and greebling and all that sort of thing. And this had some. Okay, I was thinking of the other pack. This is still very much structural. Oh, that's the new plate I added. I've added some of these things. We haven't added that one. I think some of these are the don't fit the size assumptions we made about some of the panels. But it might work. Is that a 2x1? Might be. That might. I mean, what have we done here? We've got these are. Yeah, they're separate pieces. So that's one we added here. That one I think we added. Yeah, that's here. I don't know. 2x1s? Are we using 2x1s? Not sure. Maybe we are. No, they're like 4s or 3s. It's like a floor one. Okay, we're not going to do any more on that. It does have its own door, which we could maybe a third door option. These dividers, that's more of a, we can use, I think they might be quite good to use in, we do another type of room, like a more of a lab room or just a living quarters or something, where with partitions and dividers. So we could look at that at some point. It might be that we could use these already, for example, on occasionally on the ends of a storage piece by the side of a door, so you don't get risk, protect the walkway from the crates and things. We could do that. And all these are more walls, so nothing greebly or cluttery. Right, we're going to have to look at the third set. We used all the crates. There's 8 of them. We used all those. So let's have a look at set 3. Now I did originally reject this set. Is this the one I want? Preview. Yeah, the demo environment is a pre-built one. I think this is the parts. So this has got a lot more assets, and they may not match, but I think maybe we don't care too much right now. That's an art problem for future people. Right. Okay. So we're looking for a couple of things. I'd quite like things that we can add to our stacking. I mean, these are quite funky. They're not really a thing, but maybe they are a module that we would stack. You could just chuck that into the this as well. Oh, that's a raised one. That's a fixed one. We could that stack. Might do, because they need to be self-stacking and then also support crates. This is a bit more useful like that. I don't know what size that is. Let's have a look. Find it. Trap. That's like a trapdoor. 200 by 200. That could be scaled to the 1.5 probably. We could throw it in and see what happens. Don't know about that. That's a bit. We could chuck them in and see what they look like. We could do that. About these. Are these stackable things? They're not. Oh, that one's square. How big is that? That says ceiling. 1.5. We could try stacking them. I mean, do they have an underside? They do. Okay, we can add those. These things, these like plates, sure, why not? I mean, they makes for interesting stuff. Oh, look, there's these as well. Certainly add to the interesting things in the storage department. Might be a bit odd having them on top of a crate, but I think if they all look like the larger objects, so we could probably just put them in as, I wonder if that one would as well. We could probably put them in as the 1.5s, and then, or what do we start with? No, the 1.5s, squish them in a bit, and then they'd only appear in that. They wouldn't appear above that, but you might get them under a crate, or on top of a crate rather. Let's try. We can chuck those in. That's a kind of a quick win. Other objects. Most of it's structural, which is a shame. More barriers. I might have to look for some more sci-fi kits that have more stuff. Pipework. It's quite a kettle of fish there. There's lots of different combinations to deal with, but that's exactly the sort of thing that procedural stuff's good for. We can come up with a kind of a way of expressing how we would fill a space. We can put some pipework in, maybe along ceilings between 2 endpoints, and have it split the space up and put in pipe runs just around the ceilings. Make it look cool. Have it exit through the wall a bit, or back up through the ceiling. Could also come down at the ends. There are some down ones. So that might be, I mean, you could certainly make some nice procedures to combine these pieces correctly as you resize things. Just how you go between the 2 points. Maybe it's just a zigzag with some variation on the ends. That's a whole couple of streams there is, but that might be fun. What's this? It's a thing. Some sort of transformery thing. Stack. could be stacked. Maybe that's one of the small things. Could go on the top of a stack. That's a huge thing. Is that stackable? What size is it? We could just stack them in storage. Might be a useful resource to have in your thingy. 3 by 2. Yeah, it'd have to be scaled down. I wonder what that would look like 50% scale. I mean, it'd probably work. Sure. Occasionally you'll get one of those and then there'll be like no room for anything else. Maybe you'll get a crate set on top. Sure, let's tuck these in and see what happens. So, to go about that, right, I'm going to put in a room so we can see the effects of what we're doing. And we are room. Was it room main or a test one? Main. Let's make it bigger. That's too big. Oh yeah. Oh wow. Oh, hang on. It's right in front of me. That's why. Let's stick that down there a bit. Somewhere. And the ceiling. And yeah, we'll make that bigger. And why is there nothing in it? Oh, occupancy. Here we go. Oh yeah, I set that. So the occupancy needs non-zero. Right. Okay. We've got a room. We've got some to test. So if we, all right, I'll go here. We sit here and look at. We don't need this. What we need is the. Where have we stuck all the objects? Which is station resources. That's here. So we are going to want to add in to station content stackable. So we've got these 3 sets: the 1.5s, the 1s, and the 1.5s. So we're using, because we're using this first entry of the 1.5 to determine the base size. Oh, actually, that's irrelevant. It'll still place the objects their full original size. So we're going to have to fix the size of things here, like this big thing here. This why not got selection on? So yeah, so this big thing here, which if we put it back to its original size, it's gonna. Well, let's just stick it in and see. Let's just stick it in and see. So we need to find that, which is there, and we'll add it into this list. That's now in this list. Have we chosen it at all? No, why not? Chance? Let me move that out of the way a minute. Okay, let's go back to here and try some things. Well, that's disappointing. Why is that not being used? Yeah. It is there, but not being selected. We are selecting between the the other two. Why are we not choosing enough? Let me try sticking something in the other. Let's stick this widget in the smaller stackable things. Let's go with 1 by 1. There. There we go. So that's now in there, stacked on top. Okay, that's good. Is there something wrong with that one? wonder if it's because it's too big. Oh. As soon as it gets, maybe, right, so that thing is huge. It's going to be taller than the space available in the room. So it's going to get rejected as soon as it gets chosen. So we can, right, this is kind of, I mean, if I make the room bigger, that's the temporary fix. Let's do, here we go. Okay, so now we can select it because it does fit. Brilliant. But what, we don't really want it to work quite like this. So this is obviously a completely oversized asset. So we're going to, I think, to use it, we'll use it as a smaller object. It's only using the height of the asset to split the space up. The X and Y is just starts with the 1.5 square, and if it happens to be bigger, it's just tough. It just builds it, puts it in bigger. So what I want to do is modify this mesh, basically fix how it works, and I can, yeah. So in fixing placement, you can do things like here. I'm going to change the overall scale to half. Why doesn't that make any difference? That's interesting. That should have worked. Let me try it here. No. That's annoying. Or is that the placement? So the other thing to try is, instead of using the asset bounds, we need a custom bounds which starts defaulting here. This is like radius, I think. Z. Is that right? Oh, I'm on the wrong object. I'm on this object. Let us go back, find the right object. That one. This is the towery thing. Excuse me, let's go here. Right, half. There we go. It does work. Okay, so now we set it to half. It will fit X and Y. And then we've also, and it just uses the height that it ends up with. Brilliant. More interesting objects. What we want to do perhaps is tweak the size of this thing. It is a bit big. It's not 1 by 1. So we're going to, again, go down here. I'll fix that by saying, let's try 0.75. Just so that it doesn't stick into everything quite as much. I think it's still bigger. I mean, that's the 1 meter cube. We should probably go with half. Maybe that would fit the other thing as well. Here we go. I might get this weird arrangement of it being stacked on top. Yeah, that's annoying. Obviously the top of it is there, and there's this big gap. Not sure what to do about that. I'm going to ignore that for now. Look at this. Yeah, crate stacked on top of this thing. Well, it makes everything look more interesting. A bit more colour, that sort of thing. So let's see what else we can chuck in there. We're going to chuck some of these plates in. I mean, those are quite fun, but I think I would quite like to put this thing in. What is that? Where is that? Let's have a look at that. So that is 2 by 2. So we need a, like, what's that, 75% to make it 1.5, and that'll go in the 1.5 list. There we go, and we're gonna see what it's done. Where's it gone? Here we go. All right, so it's in there, but it's too big. So we're gonna go with 0.75. There we go. There we go. That's a thing that can be stacked in. Sometimes it'll get stacked higher up, but I don't care. It looks cool, which is what we're all about. Might be some sitting on things issues. Yeah. Let's add some more things in. What else have we got? They're all basically the same. We could add that frame. Looks interesting. What's that one? Oops. Let's find that. This is, again, 2 by 2. I'm going to put it in here and do the 0.75. What else are we going to add? This thing here. Not sure. It doesn't look very... Why has it got a big gap underneath? Where's the origin on that? Oh, the origin's there. We could put it in, see what it looks like. Let's do that. Sorry, just banning spam bots. So this thing is here. Again, 200, so we can chuck it in, make it smaller. And there were some other ones. I don't know about that one. That's more of a ceiling panel. Or it'll stack terribly well. But we might get away with something like that. No, I don't really like that. One of these. Let's have one of these. This one. What's that one? How big is it? I mean, it's a floor-ish panel. Let's chuck it in and see what happens. Again, we need to 0.75. Anything else? Yes, one of these. That one. Again, it says roof. Got 300 by 300, so that'll need to be 50%. Make it a bit thin, but hey, that'll be fine. Let's go with 50% of that. Anything else? Any more? Not really. They all look very similar. Oh god, what are these? Probably wouldn't stack terribly well. Okay, let's see what mess we've made. Save that. Let's go and have a look. Yeah. Oh, we got some stuff stacked in there. Odd plates and things underneath everything. Yeah. Oh, I guess one. I guess the 5 centimeter offset jitter thing can accumulate because it shifts the main thing across, but not too bad. Okay, that makes for interesting stacked stuff. I'm going to go with that for now, plus these things on the top which kind of float a bit. One thing we could do with these is, the bottom's fine, it's this top piece that sticks up. We could fudge the bounds so that it's here and then this will just stick into things. At least you wouldn't get the gap. Are we doing the reorientation? Yeah, we are. They do sit nicely. Yeah. Without some more metadata attached to these things, it's difficult to say things like don't put anything on top of these if you've chosen it, because it's a very specific thing. I mean, you could have another list like stackable 1 by 1 top, or and if it chooses one, decides to do a top one instead of a normal 1 by 1, it would then it would then stop the iteration. Things would tend to stop early, so maybe the probability of that should increase from low as it go up. The other thing to do is, although I do think there is a case for that, because things that can go on the top could just be little things as well. We could have small objects stacked on the top, you know, a little panel or an odd greebly thing. Let's have a look. Is there anything? Oops, where's it gone? Is there anything that would fit that bill? I mean, these are all, again, all structural things. Not really objects. We need a kit with space objects. Clutter. So I think I'll do some. I'll try and find something for next time. We can do some of that. But these are all structural, apart from a couple of nice little bits. Right. That'll do for now. Let's make things a bit more interesting. What else were we going to look at? Yeah, there isn't really anything good for floor clutter. It would have to be something like pipe work or some sort of railie thing, whatever that is, or this. Yeah, very nice structural. I mean, I can show you the sort of thing they built with this. It's quite. Let's save this level. I'll leave my room in there. If I go to this, so this is something they built with it. which seems to be quite dark. But it does give some very good impressions. So here's those ceiling panels, floor panels as well. Arched doorway or windows. There's a room with these things in. I mean, you can see the stairways, railings, all sorts of stuff. I think the idea of the mezzanine idea might be a good one. We could start using some of this stuff then. And the stairs. A lot of it has great scope for being done procedurally. Oh yeah, and this has got the exterior stuff going on. Oh look, that's our little nubby thing. Pipe mounts, structural, more longer runs of pipe work. More kind of oil riggy, but it's good space station-y stuff. Certainly for the exteriors. And these walkways, that's what those are. Exterior walkways. Well, there is scope to do something like this because we've been focusing on the interiors. There's scope to build out on the exterior and clad those basically black boxes in interesting things, and this might provide something along those lines. Doorway in. Yes, inspirational, tricky, but inspirational. Oh, it's all on legs as well. Oh, it's more of a outpost kind of thing, I'd say, rather than a space station. Maybe that explains the griminess. Yeah. Okay. Go back to ours. See what's happened to our rooms. They've got lights on. Cool. There. Squeezed that one in, didn't we? Let's see. More things. I wonder if we could do something like bias the choice of, because at the moment within a set of like the 1 by 1.5s, it just always chooses randomly. We could do something to bias it into like groups, and it means you'd do things like you'd get a stack of base plates, or you get a stack of crates, and then sometimes you get one which is a mixture. We could do that because that could also be done for the whole room, or it could just be done per stack, or it could be done per section. There's lots of ways that could be done. Lots to think about. But I do like the more haphazardness now of randomly stacking stuff together. Again, it does look quite... There's an element of just complete randomness. It'd be nice to have a bit more structure to that. I mean, I can illustrate. Let me have a go at illustrating that. What I will do though is I'm just going to turn these. No, these have got occupancy 0. That one. Yeah, that's occupancy off as well. Oh no. Occupancy. I'm going to force these all to occupancy 0, just so we don't keep rebuilding them. Oh, that was forced 0 because it's a corridor. There we go. Right. Put the ceilings back on. Yeah, because I just wanted to. If I'm going to be fiddling with the procedures, it'll be rebuilding all those rooms as well. So what I was going to do, try and illustrate what I'm talking about with. We've done the jitter stuff. Stack. So here, where we choose the asset, it's fully random. Feed passed in. And that's basically a bit of logic to find out how many there are to choose from, randomly choose an index, get that one, and then split it out into its ID and its bounds, which is the two things that the asset has. So what we could do is, with this randomness, instead of going randomly fully within that range, we could apply what would be a good way of doing it? We apply a bias. You wouldn't be able to narrow down on a center range. It would just be the full range. But it might be that it's a combination fact, like the jitter, we had the main offset and then a sort of variation within that. So we could have choose a value and then how many values either side of that. I wonder if that would be fine. Choose a value and either side. I mean, that would work. Obviously we need to clamp it, make sure it doesn't go out of range. So we could, and how would we express that? I guess it's like spread. If the spread was 0, it would just randomly choose a single thing because there'll be no spread. But if a spread is like 1, it would allow you to choose. No, that's not the same thing. We want to be able to say, I want to choose a couple from the top, a couple from the bottom of the list, a couple from in the middle of the list, change that range and still have it just randomly choose from that. What does that look like? It's the min and max that is fed into the random. Right. So this min and max, we want to be able to say, instead of being the full range, it is a smaller range, and then that's chosen randomly within that. By clamping as well, we can enforce that by saying, if you set your range to 100, it's going to choose from all of them. But if you set it to 1, it'll be much less, much fewer. Do we want to be able to do a little bit as well? So the simplest, and a simpler way than going plus and minus is to say it's only plus, but then that range is randomly positioned within the other one, which is like the jitter. So yeah, let's do that. I'm going to add it to this as a feature of this procedure. But basically, what I'm saying is we're going to. I don't think. Oh yeah, I have got a clamp. So we're going to clamp this value to be between 0 and the last entry, which is count -1. So we need to do that anyway, so we'll do that just to make sure this is always a valid lookup. But now we're going to change these. So what did I say? Is it it's two randoms. It's the random within the range, and then it's the offset of the remainder. So let's do some calculations. So if we take off, so if we've got a value here, which is, so this is going to be our spread, max range. Is that right? We're going to end up with two random things here. We don't want them to always be random. There's going to need to be two seeds. One is to drive the decisions about the design, i.e. where in the range we're taking from, and the other one is just a general random to choose within that range. So let's do that, because we're going to have two randoms. It's getting a bit obscure. So we've got I like to do this where stack design seed. So this is driving the decision about what the stack will look like overall, not per choice. This general seed at the top is a per choice one. It's just for variation. So let's call that variation seed. Yeah, I've been using hash to be seed. It's kind of a convention I've adopted. So let's do that. And we still have the spread. Maybe the spread is chosen at random based on the design as well. That would be good. Because we're basically trying to generate designs, and that's making decisions that apply the same to various things, hence the design seed. And so by having the design seed match higher up, in the all this hierarchy, you can unify the design of things. Like the whole, I'll show you in a minute. The whole sort of like 1/4 could be all one design, and each quarter could have its own design, and that would look different. Actually, that's a good idea. So I'm going to take that out because we can design, we can derive that. So we've got two elements of design here. One is the spread, and one is the offset. And then the choice within that spread is still fully random, which is this last decision. So this is our design sort of setup. We'll chain them so they don't produce the same values. This needs to be over here somewhere. Let's get that over there. So what we've got to decide. Oh, I've hooked it to itself. Let's undo that. So this can be the spread, and this can be the offset. And so the spread's going to be. It doesn't want. It wants to be. It could be as much as the whole thing, so we get a fully varied stack, maybe. So in which case, the max is going to be that, and the min will definitely want 1. We could have a stack of one thing, sure. Offset is going to be whatever that value is, taken off of the total, so it's going to be whatever's left over. And so we can do that here as a kind of. Now, is that right? We've got 4 things in the list. Let's say we've got a spread of 2. No, spread can also be the full value, I think. Let's do it like that. And then this choice here can be. Right, that won't be that, but that will clamp to that. No, we do want it to be that. I think it might be that. Max. So this is the remainder slack with which we can go. So for the offset 0, it means it's from the bottom of the list up by the spread, and if it's up, it can go up to. I think it's 2, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2. 4 minus 2, yes, it does need to be the full list. So the full count here, not the last index. So that should give us a spread and an offset. And that means, so the offset is the starting point, spread is going to be the end, how far further it is. So if we add those together, we can say offset plus spread is our max. Yes, because we've got -1 here, should be within range. So that's our offset max, offset /min. And then we can choose from there and there. Okay, what has that done? We have got mostly crates. We've still got a lot of everything. Okay. So the thing about this is we don't get. I know what I'll try and do. Let me turn off the roof again. No, wrong one. It's this one there. What I was going to try and illustrate when doing this, which we can do by forcing this a little. No, that's values. I might just do the design thing. So here our design seed is still is all the same, which happens, I think, to produce a nice spread. What we can try is changing this and see what we get. Here we go. This is the sort of thing I'm after. So there's a lot more of these things. We've got a bit narrower sort of choice. It does cover the full spread. Maybe it doesn't have some of the later ones. I think the order we put them in kind of has affected this slightly. We've got all the crates first, so maybe we should have the more objecty things like the tanks and these things last, because we're now selecting. That's interesting. It's going to be different for these. These are all. That's equipment. Yeah. Equipment here probably wants to be later. Floor. Yeah, let's put that in here. Have to fix it again. And take it out from there. Oh, how do I do that? I don't. Can I? Oh, I can. Oh, I could have rearranged. No, I can't rearrange these. Interesting. That's interesting. I don't know if I can rearrange this list. It'll be annoying because I've got to Oh, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to put the box in twice. I'm just going to hack that in for a minute. Yeah, so boxes and then floors and then equipment last. So what that means is if we choose a smaller spread, if the offset is lower, we'll get all boxes, and if it's higher, we'll get more of the structural things. So I think what might be an idea is just to cycle through a few seeds and see what we get. That looks like more boxes. That looks like much more boxes and a bit of floor of everything. Boxes, more containers. So in theory, we should be able to get, if we get a low spread, we should only get like a couple of things. Like that's mostly boxes and a few things. Crates. Balls. Yeah, we're definitely in the vaguer territories of this stuff. Not fully convinced it's illustrating what I'm trying to show. But let me just double check our decision. Design, the variation is that one. So this is specifying the range of values we can take from. Red can be between 1 and max. It's 1. Now if it's 1, we're going to be adding 1 to the offset, which means we'll always have at least 2, which is not quite what we're after. So maybe spread can be 0. And that means we'll just get 1 item occasionally. Is max right then? I'm gonna do that. No, not 0 to all of them. Yeah, so let's try that. So at some point, it's possible that we'll get all of 1 item, in theory. Why do I not feel like we're getting that? We're certainly getting cases where there's more of things, which tells me that there is like here we've got, there's no floor stuff. Yeah, there is, there must be. Why have we got boxes and floor stuff? Sorry, oh, these little things are, it's a separate decision, isn't it? I guess once we've gone to a different list, we're going to... Oh, that's what's happened. Yeah, these are all the mid crates. There is no other options for the... Yeah. The middle crates. So that this has limited the large objects to just these. The medium objects, there's only one choice, which is... Or 2 choices, which is this crate, or maybe that's also narrowed down. Oh yeah, because it's the same logic. And then we've also gone down to 1 on the top as well. Yeah, so I guess that seed needs to be the same for the whole stack, so that we can make that sort of same kind of decision. Is that right? Sure. It looks different anyway, which is it's kind of the point. We might guess. Yeah, we've got like a stack which is, oh, it's all floor stuff, and then there isn't much choice at the top. Maybe we need some of the small floor panels for the top. That would probably work. So then at least the middle range will be floor things. These odd sizes, again, we could do the same thing. Let's try and do that. Let's have a go at that, and then I'll probably call it a day. No, station resources. So these two. So in here we've got just boxes, and here we've got boxes and a prop. We probably want to do a similar thing here, where we've got boxes, then floor stuff, and then objects. So we need to put some in there. Unfortunately, we can't reorder these lists, which is a bit of a feature problem. This one is just boxes, so we're going to put some floor stuff in. These are all like 1.5 by, we can find that. That's like 1.5 by 1. So get rid of that. What was I looking at? This box. Box is, yeah, so 1.5 by 1. So we need to put some floor stuff in here that's similar. I think it was, oh, there we go, floors. Yeah, that's that one at 50% size, and then one and a half by 1. Sure, let's chuck that in. In fact, that already is 1.5 by 1. Here we go. We're getting some more simplified stacks. This introduces another problem. Currently the stack is defined, the height of the stack is defined by the number of items, which, given that some are tall and some are short, doesn't really work very well, because if you've got the floor plates, you'd want more of them. So we should probably change to controlling the height by saying what height we want, and then just seeing if we can fill that with objects. We can look at that next time. Roof. Oh, these are quite good. Let's take one of those and scale it down to, why is that 4? It's going to need to be 1.5, about 0.7, no, point. I'm going to do that. No, that's 2.4. Okay, was there anything else we're going to add? Yes, we want some floor stuff in the 1x1s. There you go, whatever that is. That can go in there. I'm going to have to, actually what I'm going to do is find another one. Floor 1x1. I'm going to replace that prop because I want to add it in after. Where's the props gone? Equipment. Yeah, this thing. I'll put that back in at the top and reset the size to, what size is that? Needs to be half size. Okay, there we go. Now we can see much more prevalent. It's like if we've narrowed it down to a particular decision, it's going to be to a sort of smaller spread. We end up, ooh, why are those like that? Oh, that's a flipped one. Someone's put it on upside down. I mean, these are quite good. This is where the variation really starts showing up things. Really start noticing how nice it is to have the variation in there. It's a flipped one. Brilliant. Okay. I think we need to change the, it needs to be on height, not on the number of items. So let's do that. I'm going to do that now. I'm still into this. Let's keep going. Let's push on. What? That sounds suspicious indeed. Thank you, AutoMod. I'll do that. Right. Let us change how this works. So at the moment, a stack stops when we reach the quantity we want. I mean, we could leave that in and just set it as, because we might want to be specific, and we'll just set it to high value. But we also want to stop when we reach a certain height. Now, do we want to? Is it when we want to exceed that height, or is it when we're about to? Probably when we're about to exceed that height, because then we can set it to the height of the room, if, for example, and we're never going to hit the room, the ceiling. It means we might get gaps, but that's fine. So we want to look at. So here we've. Oh, we're looking. What we're doing is looking at the space left. Oh, okay, so we already have the space left. Bit of an odd way of specifying it. We don't have the current height. Oh, we can do it. So we can do it. We can pass in the height we want, and then just keep taking off each piece in the same way that the frame is cut down until there isn't enough left for the current one, which is a similar check as here. So if we add a height, this is a ideal height of stack, and then quantity becomes max item in stack. Yeah, because that'll also stop it, but I want this to stop it. I guess you can set whichever you want. If you set height to lots, it'll be quantity controlled, and if you set quantity to lots, it'll be height controlled. That's fine. So we need another one of these tests here where we're basically saying, is there enough room for the next asset? So if this remaining height, all right, so if the asset size is less than how much space we've got left, we should allow, which we can do here. So the default is 0, so we won't be adding anything. Let me go, I have to dig into here again. Here, this height. Let's go, just make it back to max. Quantity. Oh, height comes out as quantity with this calculation. So we'll come back to that in a minute. Yes, that's not had the result we expected. I know why. So the second iteration is still got height 0. So what we need to pass in there is, instead of splitting, we're going to take off. So we need to subtract, because we've used a bit of the height for a particular asset, which is going to be this asset Z. So we're going to take that off of the height, and that's the new sort of remaining height. Let's say remaining height, and that'll be the new one. We can pass in and then carry on. Right, so we're still quantity limited, so we'll change that. But that's going to be here. So instead of quantity, which I'm going to set to, it's set to, let's say 50. Boink. Oh dear. Instead of that, I'm going to set this height to be the room height, or the space, which is this object here. So let's do dimensions, object, Z, height. Okay. Obviously that's always going to be full, but what we want to probably do, yeah, this occupancy calculation needs to take that. So we need, let's do number of crates. Let's move it all into here. I'm going to add an actual height here. I'll do the logic in here because then we can stack bound. Yeah, stack space bounds, stack bounds. Okay. Oh yeah, we're doing that fall off, weren't we? So this doesn't take into account any of the fall off stuff. If I take that out and hook that up to there, that up to there, in here, instead of quantity, we want, what we got, what are we doing here? This is the fall off. Oh, that's our ideal quantity. This is the quantity stuff. So instead of quantity, which is what this is calculating, we want to calculate our height based on the, we've got this size here. So let's do that. Let's just take that as our max, min, some proportion. Well, it's going to be scaled anyway. Because we're going to be multiplying by this scaling, this fall off factor here. But we want to 2.0, no. That's 1. Oh, it's because it was rounding. Sure. Height 0, let's do it. Okay. Okay, what's happened here? This is our clamp 0 to 1 fall off. This is our space bounds, stack bounds, space bounds, Z. Got a random height modulated. Oh, quantity. We haven't got a quantity set. Let's, for now, we're not going to use quantity, so I'm going to set this to something ridiculous to disable it. So we'll do that to 1,000. Now we have stacks of varying sizes. I think we should probably go with a fully occupied corner is going to be somewhere near the top, so I think we need to, oh actually I do that. Instead, we can just basically randomize the fall off between none and, is that what I want to do? Yeah, so the fall off still applies, but I want to be able to say like it's going to be always at least 75% full. So in a stacked corner we'll still get variation, but in the top 25%, and then it falls off towards the center. Look at this bizarre room of things. There's definitely a theme to it, which is good. So what does that look like if we fiddle with the let's save that. If we fiddle with the where's it gone? Where's it gone? Where's it gone? Here, this seed. Let's go a bit more zoomed in. See what sort of themes we can get. Oh, I like this. Oh, not sure why. Maybe they're just sparse rooms. Oh, maybe it's because we don't get these because they're too big. See, that's another thing. We're saying, oh, I've got this small space to fill vertically because of the fall off. If you've only got large assets, that makes it problematic. And it'll just not place it. So the choice of asset could do with some filtering. I don't know. Maybe we'll just leave it as a fairly empty room. So I can carry on fiddling with this value and see what we get. More varied. Yeah, it's showing up better now. Right, what I'm going to do, I like that. So, this value, at the moment, is just uniformly the same. We could have it driven by the quadrant and the room. So let's do that. So we've got a seed here, which is for the stack. We probably don't want it per stack at the moment. Could do. Doesn't. Actually, we could do. That's a decision though. I would like to do that so we can have mixed designs within each bay, but also sometimes not. And that's a design decision for the bay. For the stack, this decision is going to be done per stack. So it needs to come out anyway. The design seed needs to come out anyway. I don't want it changing within the stack. So that means we come back out to here where we've got the design seed. So whether we have the design seed so this is a stack design seed, which will either stay the same for all of this or it will vary. I mean, it's one or the other. And that's something that we pass in. And the other thing you can do is have it choose a couple of design seeds and then choose one of those randomly per stack. And if we only pass in one, then they're all the same. And then you get some uniformity still. Like there's 3 different sorts of stack here, or if you put in 10, there's 10 different sorts. I quite like that. I'm going to do that. And that choice is done here. So this, yes. So if I, yeah, I'm going to do that here. That design decision is based on getting a bit carried away, but I'm going to carry on. Let's do that. Right, so this design seed needs to be selected from a list of design seeds based on this, and each stack can be different. But if that list has only got one thing in, they'll all be the same, so that's fine. We can still control that higher up because that list, we're going to get a seed out of this list. This list is going to be our stack designs. And we want, yeah, we need to get one thing. Is there a list random? No, there was an asset random. I want a list random. Yeah, let's do that. List random. Oh no, because it's ints. No, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to do it here. So random from, how many are there? We've got a certain number. We need to do, because it's 0 indexed, we need to take one off that to get our last index. We're going to drive it from that. and that is going to select one of our seeds, which is our design. There isn't anything in there yet, so we can't do that. That seed is going to then feed into here, so we don't reuse it. So this is stack design selection. Okay. Put these up because that's going to be shared. Go back out to here. Designs again. Bring it further out because this is for the whole grid of things. And space stackable. Here's our designs. Add at least one. So this is per space, which is fine. Oops, wrong add. I'm building a list. Append an int to build our list. We'll use space. So this is the single design. Bonk. Okay. Okay, they look the same. Is that because no, they have different seeds? Maybe that's just bad luck. Let's try changing the room seed. Yeah, we're getting different styles. So yeah, we've got all these ones over here. We've got this collection of stuff here, collection of stuff here. So that makes the rooms a bit more interesting because they have the sections have different purposes. And again, the room seed will just determine, which ones we get. Here we go. This one with just crates in this corner. This one's got a mixture. So it's like floor stuff, and like that. There we go. Prettier, more varied. Oh, I was going to do the thing where sometimes we want it to choose more than one. Let's go. The best way to do that. Let us. So we could add another seed. We're just going to twist off to generate a new seed stream. So this is like second design. And if we switch to that one, everything has two designs, which could probably look a bit messy, particularly when it's a random design. Maybe that's occasionally it will do that. Here it's got mixtures of crates and non-crates, so that works. Here's, don't know, it makes for interesting, bit more variety, a bit more richness. Let's just choose one of those at random. So I'll use the probability to switch between a single or double design, which we can conditionally switch frame. I'm going to take that as well. I might pass a different seed in there actually. Let's twist this again with something. Yeah, there. Just so we don't risk it sort of interacting with each other. Probability. So some probability will select that one, sometimes that one. So this is the probability that we'll select two. Let's just go with 20%. So 1 in 5 you'll have 2 styles, and otherwise you'll just have one. I mean, you can see that here, 2 styles. These are flory stacks and mixed stacks. Here it's these ones and not. Makes for more interesting collections of stuff. Looks a bit more purposeful, like a building site. Or building site. Like a building suppliers, you go there and there's like areas of stacks of one thing and areas of stacks of another, and then sometimes there's all sorts of stuff mixed together. Machinery and not. And then a bit of both. Who knows the logic, but in space, anything goes. So that is a whole load of interesting variety added. Where's the... Let's go and put my ceiling back on. No, this one hasn't got the ceiling on anyway. Okay, that wasn't this room. That was this room. No. Oh. There you go. It wasn't hidden. Let's see what it looks like from here. Whoa. This time we have got more things. I mean, these look a bit like boxes, but they're fine. Could be a bit more interesting. And we have seeds. Oh, time for an auto seed. Let's do 1 second auto seed. There we go. I like my auto seed feature. Ta-da! Pose for the photo. I think that'll make a good video. Oh dear, that's been quite a long stream, but we got some cool stuff done. Made it look a bit prettier. Could stare at that all day. You don't need me. Yeah. Anyway, lovely. It's a bit dark in here. Lovely. Thank you for coming to my stream. Seeing me noodling with crates and other objects now. I'm going to find... Oh, look at that stack of pallets. I'm going to try and find some more objecty kind of things. This is all kind of like structural and storage. So we can start topping off our stacks with little bits and pieces and also start scattering some things around the floor. Make it look a bit more lived in. And maybe some more stackable things. I don't know. I'll see what I can find. Maybe that I would expect a sort of space sci-fi themed objects pack would have crates in it, so we can have more crates. Hooray! Yeah, I think that's a good plan. And then put some more of those in. Add a bit more variety to those. Make some. Put a whole lot of rooms together and see what we get. And then think about what happens next. I think next is going to be something like dividers, so maybe the rooms have like divided sections. That would look quite good for the storage actually, because you can have different styles of storage again, different storage designs between them. As I said, the floors, clutter and greeble type stuff, and ceilings as well, maybe little widgets and doodads. Yeah, and then we'll start looking maybe at bigger picture stuff like putting multiple rooms together and how we do that. So yeah, let's go. Let's leave it there, and I bid you farewell. Yeah, take care. See you next week, hopefully.